If I ever put a quarterback through what Philly is putting Jalen through right now, I apologize. Pick up the blitz. Say what? Are we serious right now? Like, we just wrapped up perhaps the craziest wildcard weekend ever. I mean, it feels like we say that every year, but still a crazy wildcard weekend. And we're revisiting arguably the most toxic quarterback-coach relationship of the entire 2010s, if not the entire 21st century. Like, how do we get here? It's ironic, too, because that RG3 Jay Gruden beef started in a game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. More on that in a minute, but just to give you an introduction onto what I'm talking about right now, Jay Gruden tweets that first quote I read to you about how he would never stand for what Philly is allowing to happen to Jalen Hurts. And who would seize the opportunity to clap back but RG3? Now, let me clarify this. You guys know me. I'm an RG3 fan. He's arguably my favorite football player, period. And I'm not willing to hide that or change that or ignore that. But I'm not going to take a purely, Jay Gruden, he was wrong about everything. Look at how he turned out with Kirk Cousins. We didn't go anywhere. We didn't win any playoff games, so it might as well have been the same result as our RG3 remained the starter. No, that's not the angle that I'm going to take, because there are some merits to what Jay Gruden ultimately had to say about RG3, because some of what happened during their relationship was Robert's fault. There's no denying that. So let's flash it back to that Bucs game now. 2014. It's week 11, I believe. Redskins are coming off a bye at 3-6. Ironically, the same record that they held when RG3 went on that 6 one, including the Browns win by Kirk Cousins when RG3 had that partially torn I think it was an MCL. It was not his ACL against the Ravens, but you get the point. That long winning streak from 3-6, Redskins had a chance to get their feet right once again. It's 2014. RG3's in his third year, looking for a bounce back with a new head coach. They come out, huge home opportunity against a one-win Tampa Bay team. Not the Tampa Bay team we saw beat Philly's ass tonight. So we got first play from scrimmage. We get the ball first. RG3 takes the snap. Doesn't like the initial look, rolls out to his left. He's a righty, so already putting himself in a bit of an unfavorable position, but he sees an open Niles Paul underneath, dumps it to him, bit of an off-balance throw, bit off target, but it hits Niles right in the hands and bounces right off his hands and into linebacker Danny Lanzana's interception on the first play of the game. There is no possible play that is more hindering to a quarterback's confidence than that. Now, great quarterbacks can shake that aside. RG3, at the time, was not a great quarterback. But that's not the point. The point is that, ultimately, that game ended up spiraling out of control to the point where RG3 was holding the ball for crazy long amounts of time. I remember we had a red zone possession where we had a 1st and goal, and then he would stand back there, and then, maybe he'd shake off a sack, but then he'd retreat even further or something. Maybe not Lamar Jackson style, but he'd still, he didn't want to get rid of that ball because he was scared. And you could tell right there and then that he was not the same player and that he probably would never be the same player again. I don't want to over-dramatize it like that because he still did go on to have a good game towards the end of that season, knocking the Eagles out of the playoffs in Week 16. That was a fun memory, probably my last memory from the RG3 era, in fact. 2014, Week 16, I'll never forget it. But, again, post-game, RG3 steps up to the podium. He says a quote along the lines of, I'm going to look at myself in the mirror and ask myself what I needed to do better, and I'm going to encourage that for my teammates too. And what the problem was there is that came out and came off to not just other members of the media, not just members of the fan base, but also to the coach as the quarterback not taking accountability. Imagine if Dak Prescott did that after his performance yesterday. If he said, I was going to go in that locker room and tell the guys to to figure out their own shit or something like that. I mean, that's essentially how that quote got spun. And when Jay Gruden was asked about that at his press conference, he basically threw RG3 right under the bus, saying, well, if he said that, well, he better realize that he played nowhere near good enough today. And it's the truth. He did not play well enough to win that game. They got blown the heck out against a one-win team. Nobody played well enough. And the problem is if you want to have a good relationship with your quarterback, you just don't do that. Obviously, this is in the past, but it's just ironic that we're revisiting this 9 years later. And Jay Gruden's second response to RG3's say what was, you weren't prepared, Robert. So he did firmly believe that RG3 was not prepared to succeed in his system. Jay Gruden came in with the goal in 2014 to groom Robert into a pocket passing quarterback. If you recall his quote about the read option, he said, we're gonna do some sprinkles of read option. I haven't heard him speak in a while, so my impression may be a little bit rusty. I remember if I had any impression about Jay Gruden back in the day, it was like, oh, we did some good things. It's Kirk's team. Yeah, that's one I remember. But that's the thing. Kirk Cousins and Colt McCoy, they were pocket passers from the jump. RG3 was never that way. And that's probably where the starting point really was. But it just took that game where nothing was going right for either party for it to all blow up. And he got benched a few weeks later and ended up getting benched for the whole season. Even after having a decent preseason in 2015, Kirk Cousins ended up having his breakout year then. So he did earn the starting job. And Jay Gruden's respect, he didn't get us any playoff wins. He cost us playoff berths at times. This video is not about Kirk Cousins. I genuinely have changed my mind on him since my cynical 14, 15-year-old days. I feel terrible about what happened to him this season because he was genuinely having a good year. The thing is that what would that have amounted to? That's the question, because would Minnesota have maintained that momentum? You'll never know. Hopefully he'll come back next year. And, RG3, he says he's still available to play, but I think he's in a better place now as an analyst. He's still in some ways a polarizing figure, because you got to be polarizing when you have wild takes and you're trying to be that type of figure, right? Like me, right? I mean, if my takes aren't polarizing, then what the hell are they? So, yeah, if you guys haven't seen the Twitter beef, go ahead and check it out. And if you're not on Twitter, RG3 posted on his Instagram, too, a little snapshot of it with a couple of, with his own little spin on it, with a couple of stills from that era. Anyways, I will be posting another video. I talked about how I would post a video about our quarterback situation, but there's another special video that I want to make for you guys. It's going to be a reaction to RG3 and Redskins 2012 highlights. So I figured since we were on that topic relatively that I would point that out now. I'm going to do a live reaction to that video because every time I watch it, man, you'll know once I upload it. And also, on the note of that channel that has that video, there's another video called The Will to Win that he uploaded too. That was the RG3 return documentary. So I may make another video about that as well. I was going to talk about it more here, but we're getting towards 10 minutes. But if I had to say anything about it quickly, it's the fact that he had to go through a lot of rehab to get back on the field, period. And injuries also, in addition to you wanting to be a player that you're not, those affect you psychologically. And just that and so many other factors, this wasn't going to work out. All right, guys. Hail.